Hello everyone, welcome to Lukman IS. Today we are going to have the Hindu analysis of 23rd October 2020. So let us see which are the important articles in today's The Hindu newspaper. So these are the important articles. Let us try to take input for our mains examination as well as prelims examination. So first article on page number 6, editorial, drive a harder bargain at Delhi Met. So the context of the article, it is talking about the 2+2 ministerial level meeting between India and US that is going to happen in India. Yes, what should India bargain with US in this meeting? That is what the article is talking about. At the same time, the past mistake 4 years ago that India has done, that should not be repeated. So that is what the article is talking about. So let us try to understand from international relations perspective. It becomes very important for our examination. Yes. So what is the background? What happened 4 years back? Now try to understand. US presidential elections are due in November, and similar kind of situation happened 4 years back when there were again in 2016 there were presidential elections, and just before the election the 2+2 ministerial meeting happened, and that in that meeting some developments happened wherein the USA had what you can say step back on its promises with India. So similar kind of situation is happening at present. See here, in August 2016, just months before US presidential elections, the then US Secretary of State John Kerry and India's External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj had detailed discussion about Paris Climate Change Agreement, with US urging India to sign it at earliest. Part of the statement they issued included US or developed countries' commitment to mobilize $100 billion per year by 2020 as part of GCF, Green Climate Fund, to help the developing countries such as India with climate adaptation methods and renewable technologies. Okay, so this was what the US promised before with India to sign this Paris Climate Agreement. So India announced few weeks later after Mr. Kerry's visit that India would ratify the UN Climate Protocol on 2nd October to mark Mahatma Gandhi's birthday. Now what happened is, months later, after the election of US President Donald Trump, on June 2017, he announced that US would exit Paris Agreement and also revoked US promises towards GCF, calling it very unfair. So this is the background. This is what happened 4 years back. Okay. The similar situation at present, as the US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo makes his way to India next week, history may just be repeating itself. This time, Mr. Pompeo is coming exactly a week before election to ensure that New Delhi makes a strong public and strategic commitment to US on its plans in Indo-Pacific. Two different views on the collaboration on especially Indo-Pacific region. Just a few weeks ago at the Quad foreign ministers meeting in Tokyo, Mr. Pompeo had said that as partners in this Quad, 4 countries, US, Japan, India, Australia, it is more critical now than ever that we collaborate to protect our people and partners from Chinese Communist Party's exploitation, corruption and coercion. Okay. In contrast, India has maintained that its membership of Quad is aligned to its Indo-Pacific policy, as PM had stated in Shangri-La Dialogue in 2018 that by no means that Quad grouping is directed against any country. Okay. So basically here our Prime Minister has made it very clear that whatever the grouping we are involved here, it is not against China, and India-China relations or the issues will be resolved bilaterally. It is by no means clear that Mr. Trump will win the presidential elections, okay, and therefore India must be considering carefully just what it discusses and projects from the meeting. So what can be the areas of collaboration? It is critical to study just how India hopes to collaborate with US on challenge that Beijing poses on each of India's 3 fronts तो चाइना का इंडिया की कौन से 3 फ्रंट पे जो है चैलेंज है वो हमें पता होना चाहिए. एट LAC वी नो दैट एट प्रेजेंट द स्टैंड ऑफ बिटवीन इंडिया चाइना गोइंग ऑन in maritime sphere in Indian Ocean region specifically, and third South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation region यानी कि SAARC region या South Asia region surrounding India. So there is growing influence of China in our neighborhood. We can say that in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan में तो है ही, but yes, countries like Maldives also. So yes, on the maritime sphere, discussions will no doubt include strengthening ties in Indo-Pacific, enhancing joint military exercises like Malabar, where the entire Quad, including Australia, will participate next month in Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea, completing the last of the foundational agreements with basic exchange and cooperation agreement for geospatial cooperation, BECA जिसको बोला गया है. तो पहले 3 जो है फाउंडेशनल एग्रीमेंट के वो हमने साइन किए हुए हैं, एंड दिस लास्ट वन इंडिया हैज सम रिजर्वेशंस ऑन दिस, बट यस द US विल focus on India passing this agreement also in this meeting. On SAARC region, Pompeo is speaking with his feet, given that his travels will take him to Maldives and Sri Lanka as well. So he is meeting with the representatives of these countries in Indian Ocean regions also along with India. Finally, the most interest will be how US and India can collaborate, if they can, on dealing with India's most immediate continental challenge from China at LAC. So what USA can do this for this, for example, commit to keeping the pressure on Pakistan on terrorism. Despite the US need for Pakistan assistance in Afghanistan Taliban talks, a firm US statement in this regard may also disperse the pressure on Indian military forces in planning for two-front conflict with China. Okay, so other areas of cooperation that can be like trade issues, resolving trade issues with India. Okay, particularly tough and perhaps commit the restoring India's generalized system of preference status for exporters. तो ये जो निकाल दिया गया था इंडिया को, तो वो फिर से रीस्टेट करना चाहिए इंडिया को, जनरलाइज प्रेफरेंस सिस्टम जिसको बोला गया था. The government could press for more cooperation on 5G technology sharing, or an assurance that S-400 missile system purchased from Russia will receive an exemption from US CATSA sanctions. So these are the bargain points that India can have with US in this meeting. This is what the article is talking about. At the same time, in conclusion, it is saying that India should be very much careful what it is bargaining for. Its outcome should be very much calculated. Okay. So this same mistake should not be repeated. This is what the article is talking about. Okay, so what is important for our examination? India-US relationship, bilateral पे भी question आ सकता है, or we can say that the question can relate to Quad and its growing significance and what should be India's role in Quad. Okay, whether India should completely align with Quad or militarize a Quad that is led by USA and that can antagonize China in future. Okay, so such kind of opinion based question can be asked in GS2. At the same time, there is growing chance that there will be essay this year on Indo-Pacific region, especially international related topic. So yes, this kind of questions like explain the dilemma faced by India with reference to collaboration with US. So whether there should be more collaboration with USA and isolating, let's say China in Asia region, or some kind of confrontation with China, especially in Indian Ocean region, or we can say South China Sea region, by aligning with this grouping, Quad grouping, or India should maintain strategic autonomy and take help in terms of strengthening the military capabilities. And that essay topic, strategic autonomy, reality or myth. So this is very good statement. In present era, whether we are able to maintain the strategic autonomy, or it is very difficult to maintain any strategic economy by any country in today's world. So this is what is expected here. You can give the background also, like what happened in Cold War era, what happened in Indira Gandhi era, that time, how we sought help of Russia during that time, being the one of the champion of NAM movement. Okay, so that kind of let's say background can be given when we talk about strategic autonomy, reality or myth. Fine. So such kind of essay topic can be asked here. Next article, soon better. Yes, page number 6, editorial page. Again, the article is especially having context of recently developed or indigenously developed two COVID-19 tests which are economically what you can say cheap as well as efficient as compared to RT-PCR test, which is costly also and time consuming also. The new efficient and economical COVID-19 test, it is talking about Feluda test and COVID RAP. So these two, the basic information regarding these two have been discussed in previous lectures, last to last lecture, and yes, the article is giving the significance of these two test development. Okay. Thanks to pandemic, scientific institutions in India have been able to demonstrate their ability to rise on the occasion and show why the country should increase funding for research and development. ICMR's approval recently of two indigenously developed tests, these two, Feluda and Covirap, that are rapid, low cost and high sensitivity and specificity, provides much needed boost to scale up daily testing without diluting accuracy. So what is the significance of this test? The low sensitivity of rapid antigen test has meant that even people with symptoms were being handed out a negative result nearly half the time, leading to undetected cases. With unrestricted movement, business opening up, the festival season beginning, winter around the corner, the requirement for a rapid, low-cost test with high accuracy is crucial in checking virus spread through early detection and repeated testing of every asymptomatic case. Okay, so very good statement. We can say that what are the issues at present? Unrestricted movement. So economy has opened up, businesses are opening, festival season and winter. These are the risks involved in near future. While the low sensitivity of rapid antigen test arises from not isolating the virus RNA from the swab samples and amplification of DNA before the detection, the two indigenously developed tests follow these two vital steps. The reason why sensitivity and specificity are far superior to that of rapid antigen test. Okay. So both the tests developed locally do require minimum laboratory infrastructure to isolate the viral RNA from the samples, and for that reason India has to still rely on rapid antigen test in rural areas that have no laboratory infrastructure. Rural areas, rapid antigen test will become less important even in rural areas once the research institute succeed in developing protocols and tests for using saliva rather than swabs. Basically swabs are what you can say invasive samples, and that should be carefully handled by the experts. Okay, so that's why we can say that in rural areas already there is no infrastructure, especially laboratory infrastructure to handle that swabs. Okay, so yes, relying on saliva samples would mean non-invasive samples collection and probably even self collection, and thus the reliance on trained personnel would reduce and also minimize the risk of health workers getting infected. So this is the significance if the saliva samples are used, especially this Feluda test uses saliva sample. Okay, so yes, we can say that that is good thing, positive developments that are happening in COVID-19 testing facilities in India, indigenously developed. Okay, next. Yes, at 75 UN needs a rebirth. Again, we can say that tomorrow on 24th October the United Nations is celebrating 75th anniversary, and yes, the article is talking about what are the reforms that it needs to have, how the present model that was adopted after World War II has failed. तो उसका एक अच्छा बैकग्राउंड उन्होंने दिया हुआ है आर्टिकल में. ओके, सो यस, वी विल टॉक अबाउट दैट. October 24 marks the Diamond Jubilee of United Nations, but far from joyous celebration, It is an occasion to somberly reflect on why UN is stagnating at 75 and how it can regain its lost luster. So what was the UN model that was adopted at that time? Although much has changed in the international system since 1945, the world body continues to see a tussle between principle and power. On one hand, UN represents hope of a peaceful and just world order through multilateral cooperation, evidenced by the international law, uplift of downtrodden. On the other hand, institution has been designed to privilege the most powerful states of the post-World War II dispensation by granting them commanding heights over international politics via undemocratic instruments of veto powers and the permanent seats in UNSC. So this is what is happening. There is continuous tussle between principle and power. Okay. So keeping all the major powers inside the tent and reasonably happy through joint control of UNSC was intended to be pragmatic step to avoid any another world war, and this was expected, and this happened actually. The collective command model of big powers built into UNSC is one of the reasons why there has been no third world war. Yes, we can say that. And UN model did not work. How it failed? This is what it is talking about. Almost immediately after UN creation, it was pushed to the verge of irrelevance by Cold War, which left UN little room for implement noble visions of peace, development and human rights. It was only in the uncontested post-Cold War political milieu when the liberal soul superpower US strode like a colossus that the UN could spring back to the life and embark on plethora of peacekeeping mission, nation building interventions and promotion of universal human rights. So जब 1990s में USSR collapse happened, and after that the US became the sole superpower at the world stage, then it had some kind of hegemony at United Nations, and it guided United Nations through its, we can say that, achieving its principles. Now what is the situation at present? However, that golden age of UN was too deceptive to last. We are now past the unipolar moment, and the ghosts of Cold War are returning in complex multi-sided avatars. UN Secretary General has labeled the present peaking of geopolitical tension as great fracture. Use these words in answer directly by giving reference of United Nations Secretary General. The phrase New Cold War is in vogue to depict the clash between China and USA tensions involving other players like Russia, Turkey, Iran, Israel in West Asia, as well as between China and its neighbors in Asia, are at all-time high. So very good statement. UN is only as strong as its members' commitment to its ideals. Okay, so yes, what is the problem at core? At the core of the paralysis of UN is the phenomenon of P5 countries. कौन से हैं permanent 5? China, France, Russia, UK and US blocking UNSC reforms or UN reforms. In conclusion, we can say that on 75th anniversary of UN, there must be global push against ossifying rules which have privileged the rule of few over the many. This is only way to restore some balance between power and principles and ensure renaissance of United Nations. Very good statement. In the conclusion, we can say that such kind of question we can expect. UN is only as strong as its members' commitment to its ideals. Analyze the statement with reference to contemporary developments weakening UN mandate. So you can give the example of how US is withdrawing from various United Nations bodies. For example, like Paris Climate Summit, just now we talked about that, or we can say that withdrawing from UNESCO, UNHRC, Human Rights Council. So yes, a declining role of developing countries that are developed countries that are led by USA or Western countries in WTO also, that is again weakening the multilateral institution. So basically these are weakening the UN mandate. Of what is the UN mandate? Especially it is talking about maintaining peace, then development and upholding the human rights in the world. So we can say that in these spheres, it is weakening, these developments are weakening UN mandate. Fine. Yes, some prelims related important developments, science, or we can say defense technology and internal security. INS Kavaratti, the last of 4 indigenously built anti-submarine warfare ASW stealth corvettes built under Project 28 Kamartha class by Garden Reach Shipbuilders and Engineers, Kolkata, was formally inducted into Navy at Naval Dockyard, Eastern Naval Command. The ship, named after capital of Lakshadweep group of island, Kavaratti, okay, has been constructed using high-grade DMR 249A steel that is produced in India. So it is regarded as one of the most potent anti-submarine warships to have been constructed in India. Okay, so this will add our let's say naval strength in Indian Ocean to deter Chinese submarines that are faring in Indian Ocean. So we can say that this is the positive development. INS Kavaratti, which is anti-submarine warfare stealth what you can say ship. Okay. Nag anti-tank missile completes final user trial. So yes, from time to time its trials have been done. Nag Missile Defense Research Development Organization carried out final user trial of third generation anti-tank guided missile Nag at Pokhran firing range. This was launched from Nag missile carrier Namika. About Nag missile, it is indigenously developed by Defense Ministry under Integrated Guiding Missile Development Program IGMDP. Okay, so Nag had been developed to engage highly fortified enemy tanks in day as well as night conditions. Missile has fire and forget and top attacks capability with passive homing guidance to defeat all main battle tanks MBT equipped with composite and reactive armor. Nag can be launched from land as well as air-based platforms. Minimum range of 500 meter, maximum of 4 kilometer also. So yes, this is important development with respect to we can say military or defense technology in India. Nag anti-tank missile prelims के लिए important है. Match the following में वो अलग-अलग आपको डिफेंस टेक्नोलॉजीज या डेवलपमेंट्स बताएंगे मैच करने के लिए और उसका यूज क्या है, पर्पस क्या है. फाइन. Yes, Sri Lanka Parliament passes 20th amendment. So what is the significance? Background पता होना चाहिए आपको कि 20th amendment क्या कर रही है और 19th amendment क्या था. So 20th amendment rolls back the Sri Lanka's 19th amendment 2015. Legislation passed with wide support from Rajapaksa camp, then in opposition, that sought to clip presidential powers while strengthening parliament. So through this 19th amendment, the earlier government had reduced the powers of president and increased the powers of PM in parliament, we can say that. And now again the recently elected government led by Rajapaksa brothers, they have passed 20th amendment here, and it rolled back whatever the changes that were done in 19th amendment and restored the power of president and reduced the power of PM. Already we can say that the new legislation in turn reduces the PM role in ceremonial one or titular head directly. Okay, so we can say that it is the concentration of power or centralized administration that is again restored in Sri Lanka. Okay, some important captions and quotations. Yes, so this was regarding science and technology development or COVID-19 related indigenously developed technologies and science and technology or research and development, we can say that. So GS3 as well as essay. We can expect essay on GS3 essay on COVID-19 and science and technology related essay topic. Okay. So yes, and United Nations, this is we can say IR related even essay also. GS2 as well as essay. Fine. United Nations pe. Okay. So these were important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper. For further information on editorial discussion classes or ED classes, wherein in-depth analysis of all mains related issues is done by Ansari sir and team, you can contact Lukman IAS. Thank you.